God Did Not Make Niggers by Peter Gracey. My dream is for all creatures of this earth to live in harmony, peace, and love. My dream is for my children to see a world where their children have no worries of things they may be deprived of. My dream is for the beauty of blacks and whites and all races to look to each other and recognize the image of the universe's oneness. I dream that when I die, the work carries on and we continue to make progress. But the reasons for these dreams are based on the fact that you devalued me. You destroyed my name and forced me to use one without significance. You took away and wiped out my language. Ever since the day I met you, it was nothing but hatred towards me in every instance. You took away and ruined my culture. You denied me religion. You lashed my father to death to suit your only unscrupulous vision. You raped and killed my mother, denied me to read for over 300 years, reduced me to the level of an animal, denied me to write for over 300 years. You branded me on my chest with a scorching iron, tattooed me with the mark of a beast. You branded me on my behind with a blistering cast iron and prepared me to journey to the west from the east. You branded me on my back with a searing cast iron and marked me as your own. You called me 3/5 of a person after you've beaten and broken me down. Since 1555, you have been teaching me to hate myself. Since 1555, you have been telling me that I am inferior to your kind. Since 1555, you have been stealing all of our African wealth. Since 1555, you have ruined us with autosuggestion and destroyed many minds. I don't criticize you by color or by race, but by your conscious behavior. Answer this. Are those the action of a human or the doings of the evil spirit? Did you know that I'm your father? Since 1555, you have been turning me against my brothers and sisters. Since 1555, you have led us to believe that we can achieve anything in a system you have designed. Since 1555, you created my new name, and now to you I am only but a nigger. Since 1555, you made a mistake, thinking I was blind. Again, I don't criticize you by color or by race, but by your conscious behavior. Answer this. Are those the action of a human or the doings of the evil spirit? Did you know that I'm your father? You hung me by the neck. Hang that nigger, was your quote. You turned me upside down, hung me by the feet, and cut my throat. You hung me and then cut my penis off and laughed and chuckled. To you, that was fun. You sodomized our women with sticks, branches, batons, and guns. I don't criticize you by color or by race, but by your conscious behavior. Answer this. Are those the actions of a human or the doings of the evil spirit? Did you know that I'm your father? You celebrated around bonfires filled with my parents, my brothers and sisters, stink in the fire where you took their lives. You raped and impregnated our sisters, our mothers, and our wives. Then you turned around and killed the newborn babies, picked out their fingernails with little pocket knives. You trained your dogs to eat my parents alive, and when their flesh was ripped into pieces, no one was allowed to help. They had to figure out how to survive. I don't criticize you by color or by race, but by your conscious behavior. Answer this. Are those the actions of a human or the doings of the evil spirit? Did you know that I'm your father? You locked up my grandparents in mud holes in the ground, and of clean air they were deprived. You cared not for me as a human being, but you smiled when the ships arrived. You claimed you gave us justice by giving us new European names and took your disgust even further. Are those the action of a human or the doings of the evil spirit? Did you know that I'm your father? You packed us in ships like sardines. You transported us across the oceans in chains all tangled together, filled with filth, stink, and unclean. My father was adjoined to one of the dead rotted bodies, that of his brother or sister or son or daughter or his father or his mother. When I was thirsty, you threw me salted seawater by the buckets, one after the other. When I was dying, you beat me even more. You rejoiced in your acts and treated me like a pig heading to the slaughter. You forced my brother to impregnate one of my black sisters just so you could harvest the child. I begged for mercy because your actions will cause the child to become thus defiled. To remove the child, you cut her stomach from the rib to the vagina. Then you killed the mother by stumping her head and threw her in the open waters. You killed the father, and now the child will have no knowledge of self, no mother tongue, no knowledge of heritage, no God, only you as his master and no one else. He sees you as the way he should look, act, speak, and confused of why he is black. Now he dislikes his own kind, speak your language, and teach your doctrines, and his identity he can never get back. I don't criticize you by color or by race, but by your conscious behavior. Answer this. Are those the actions of a human or the doings of the evil spirit? Did you know that I'm your father? I gave up, I gave in, and now I was your slave, hoped that things may get better. I was your servant. I was forced to obey you, and now I was simply your nigger. A nigger who did not know who I was. A nigger who thought less of myself. A nigger who had no more self-respect. A nigger who was lost and could not find himself. A nigger who thought because of your color you must be respected. A nigger who thought that my hair was too thick. A nigger who thought that my nose was too broad. A nigger who thought that if I said no, massa, I would hear the crack of a whip. A nigger who thought that my eyes were the wrong color. A nigger who thought that my skin needed to be at least brown. A nigger who thought that I was more like your dogs instead of a human. A nigger who thought that I was doing justice by selling out my own. A nigger who thought that my mother was mediocre. A nigger who thought that my father was inferior. A nigger who thought that my sisters and brothers were lesser. A nigger who thought that before the Creator, you were my superior. A nigger who thought my sons and daughters should belong to you as soon as they were born. A nigger who thought that I should be happy when my brother was being burnt at the stake. A nigger who thought that I should keep you entertained at all cost. A nigger who thought that there were no such thing as faith. A nigger who thought that I could not be any more sensible. A nigger who thought that I should always smile with you so I can be accepted and not dispensable. A nigger who thought that I had no choice but to clean your house, to wash your dogs, to cook your food, to lift you over puddles, to plant your food, to reap your corn, to pick your cotton, to remove my dead brothers from the nooses, to bury my dead father after you hung him, to kill my own son to please you, to have sex with my own daughter and mother to please you, to smile and laugh with you when you sexually assault my daughter and my mother, to accept you as my leader as you steered me to poison my own. Again, I don't criticize you by color or by race, but by your conscious behavior. Answer this. Are those the actions of a human or the doing of the evil spirit? Did you know that I'm your father? You have exterminated the black man's mind, taken us down to be less than zero, and created the nigger. And then you further brainwashed the nigger. You have lessened the human from within the black man. Then you made us into just a figure. You then have the niggers construct your schools and churches. We knew not a purpose anymore. You had our women dress you for church on Sundays. But when night fell in your sundown towns, you treated them like whores. You taught the house niggers the European language because you did not have time to care for your own children. You did not have time to teach your own children how to read. You were too busy beating niggers on the plantation. So your children showed compassion, and we would show back kindness indeed. You did not have time to clean them. You did not have time to feed them. You did not have time to show kind-heartedness towards them. We loved your children more than you loved them. You only had time to enslave the niggers more and more and more. This is all you knew how to do. And the niggers who saw the glimpse of a light thought they may have seen a breakthrough. But then, the house niggers showed the field niggers how to sing and how to read. And more field niggers became good field niggers. And the good field niggers became house niggers and finally stopped sowing seeds. But if I got too smart and showed you love, you still pulled the trigger. I don't criticize you by color or by race, but by your conscious behavior. Answer this. Are those the actions of a human or the doings of evil spirit? Did you know that I'm your father? It came to pass when you were overwhelmed by too many niggers, and so you gave me a little break. You sent me off on my own, gave me a book called the Bible, and said, "Here, nigger, take." Your purpose was for me to read it and learn to live with you in peace. But I found I only received it after you had revised it, it not being the full and true story, but only just a fraction, just a little piece. You were too scared to send me off without instructions, so I would not rebel and take back what was rightfully mine. You can only hold down one nigger by himself, but not when the so-called niggers get together over time. Time went on and I started to understand myself again. I started to see new faces, and great black men would rise up as my friends. 1893, the Honorable Fard Muhammad was born. He found the Nation of Islam and reached out to blacks who mourned. He passed the knowledge to the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who advanced the teachings, and an improved movement was to be had. Because of Marcus Garvey, and the movement fired up and was even more enhanced. Because of Elijah Muhammad, we had Malcolm X and now Minister Louis Farrakhan. You still hated the black man, and now when we speak, you're vexed. When Malcolm X grew to power, you made it your duty to put a bullet in his chest. Martin Luther King met with Elijah Muhammad in 1966, and the movement got even more ahead. Then in 1968, again an assassination was your duty, so you shot Martin in his head. All this because we're black? Who or what contains so much hatred? Even when the Freedom Riders had their sit-ins, you poured mustard in their heads. Haile Selassie communicated to the world and spoke about division. You disregarded his teachings and instead continued on your own stomach-turning racism mission. Fighting in Africa was Jomo Kenyatta, who was later jailed for the Mau Mau uprising. But just to show, even after you tried to steal the motherland, even after we are so forgiven, there was never such a thing called nigger. Never such a name. I am sure you understood the Kabbalistic point of view of the Creator. But even over the Creator, you demanded fame. You created niggers. You created separation. You created bigotry. You created discrimination. You created bathrooms for blacks only and separated fountains for drinking water. I don't criticize you by color or by race, but by your conscious behavior. Answer this. Are those the actions of a human or the doings of evil spirit? Did you know that I am your father? Going forward, we figured out the Bible to find that blacks are one with the Creator and the Creator is one with us. You try to tell us your God is not here as yet, only so to control us, controlling the masses with your religion, filling your churches with new recruits. Why do you teach me your thuggish convictions and not ever teach me the divine given truth? The tables have turned, and we are now teaching you facts. I now know that I was the first on earth, so you must have originated from blacks. I created Adam. I gave you a chance to walk this earth. The black man is your father. We welcome you as a new birth. You tried to prove this wrong by saying this information is flawed. Haven't one of your own prominent geneticists not agreed with us? What was the great Mendelian law? Where light eyes are recessive and black eyes are dominant? You can get the recessive from the dominant, but not the dominant from the recessive? Where black is dominant and white is recessive? The earth was populated by us. You are my child. Isn't that impressive? Didn't the Creator make light out of darkness? Out of nothing he said, "Let there be light." Did not a baby come from the mother's triple dark womb and entered into light? Because I am one with the Creator and the Creator is I know that I am right. Didn't you understand the Bible you gave to us? Maybe King James and his many scholars didn't explain it to you right. What about the Zinzanthropus? What about Lucy? If you are not familiar with these terms, then investigate Mary and Louise Leakey. I love all people. I am only speaking actuality. I don't fight against flesh and blood, but only against principalities. Why do you continue to hate me? Haven't you done enough damage? Why do you fight divinity? Why are you on a rampage? Is it because you cannot comprehend a 180 degrees? Or is it because you still think I am inferior? Is it because you refuse to change the color of your Jesus from white to black? See, I always knew it was about color. Answer this. Who created white supremacy? And how did I lose my black identity? What caused blacks to start bleaching their skins? What caused our black daughters to perm their hairs and curl it with pins? What caused our sons to hate their noses? What caused our daughters to think dating your sons will make life like a bed of roses? Who caused black to continuously call each other niggers? Surely it was not my father, my mother, my sisters, and definitely not any one of my brothers. Surely it was not your God. We all knew it was you. Why are you so wanting to prove that you have to be our masters? I don't care what you want to achieve in life. I already know that I am your father. I just want to hear it from you. If you never agree with me, it really wouldn't matter. I wouldn't try to lynch you as you did to me. I am love, as I am the divine one. I will love you as my children. I cannot comprehend thoughts of hanging you from a tree. Tell me why John Hawkins left Europe and went to Africa. Tell me why millions of black were stolen from Africa and taken to Europe and America. Tell me why you compared my bone structure to yours. Tell me, in the cave sides of Europe and the Caucasus Mountains, who were on all fours? When we were building the wonders of the world, weren't you still in those caves? So you liked our hard work and dedication, and you cowardly made us into slaves. When you stole us from Africa, you beat us till we had no clue. Then when you visit Africa, we still politely loved and welcomed you. Aren't you the same person who told me that I was inherently inferior? Because I am black, I am 3/5 of a man, and more like a creature? Who caused everything about black seems unscrupulous? And supposedly you have a bigger brains which make your theory seems even more ridiculous. If you did not think you were superior, you wouldn't have created racism. What is godly about that mindset? Isn't that Satanism? My race contains no hatred for you. And because I am black, I am not good enough for you? All we asked for was more love and more peace. But love turned into killings and peace was out of reach. Why did you steal my brother and taught him to hate himself? My brothers and sisters, you must once again learn to love being black again. Learn to love yourself. Love yourself for what you are and stop using skin cream. Why do you need blue contact lens, blonde hair, and lighter skin? Let your black color beam. Why did we have a Frederick Douglass or a Rosa Parks for the Montgomery bus boycott inspiration? Why did we have a W.E.B. Du Bois to mastermind the NAACP formation? Why do we keep finding ways to feel like we are relevant? Why do we struggle so hard while your hate for us remains constant? Why do you keep raising your KKK flags and continue to burn the cross? Why do you burn down our churches and to you it's a gain, not a loss? Why do you keep reminding us of slavery and then ask us, what do we really want? You know exactly what you're doing, so keep being nonchalant. Why did you try to kill Dick Gregory and send death threats to Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson? Did they try to assassinate you like you did to them, or they just peacefully marched trying to get some positive reaction? Who or what caused us to fight for our sisters and mothers to vote? Why can't you deal with blacks, but we can deal with both? Why did Samuel Sharp say, I would rather die than live in slavery? And just to become a state, Haiti had to revolt. Now, after 400 years of slavery, who knows, maybe even 5, we are still seeing our brothers and sisters fighting for their lives. I have seen many of my brothers and sisters' lives taken, and your justice system fails. Your psychological mind games are having the same whipping effects. I will lift up my shirt. Can you see those whales? You have confused us with religion. And who is the divine creator? We shouted and begged for God's mercy when you whipped us, the same God you claim to be your maker. How can this be right if all you know is hate? What on earth caused us to create you? You are here, so it's no mistake. In Christianity, it's God, and in Islam, it's Allah. In atheism, there's no divine being. In Buddhism, it's Buddha. In Taoism, it is the yin and yang. Who cares in who, what, or where you put your faith? No human should whip another in becoming a slave and make his mind and his body become separate. We now know that we must do and now know what we must say. We now know who to pray to, and we now know how to pray. I pray that one day we can all be equal, because one infinite intelligence occupies all our minds. I pray that one day we can erase our black and white thoughts as they do in Mecca, and within each other, love we find. I pray that one day I don't have to see me as black and I don't have to see you as white. I pray that one day you don't see me as black and you don't see yourself as white. I pray that we all can accept the singleness of God so we can all accept the singleness of man. I pray that one day you will love me as I love you and forgive each other's sins and fix this crazy land. I hope, my African brothers and sisters, that you will understand. Not because you live in Europe makes you a European. I hope, my African brothers and sisters, that you will understand. Not because you live in North America makes you an American. I know the picture of Africa appears tainted, but that's what you were led to believe. But you can't continue to hate the root and continue to love the tree. If 3 of you went fishing with only 2 rods and only 2 cast their poles, don't ever think that you are fishing. You're playing a total different role. I don't criticize you by color or by race, but by your conscious behavior. I will treat every man like I want to be treated. I will love, honor, and respect men and women of all races, whether white or red, black or brown. We are one people. Adulation in its highest regard must be shown. If you submit to the will of God, then you must be my brother. I don't criticize you by race or by your color. I will respect your laws, but I refuse to bow down to your power. I can only criticize you by your conscious behavior. Regardless of what was said and what was done, I love you as I love myself.